Welcome to the Deep Dives crafted just for you. This time, we're really drilling down into one massive Premier League game. Nottingham Forest versus Chelsea. Final day stuff.
Yeah, and we're not just skimming the surface. We're digging into a piece from a football writer who's looked closely at, well, where this game could actually swing.
Right, exactly. The focus is on the potential deciders.
And it's the final day, like you said.
Yeah.
Both teams have already bagged European spots for next season, which is, a big deal in itself.
Definitely.
But the analysis makes it really clear that the real story here is which competition they end up in. Could be Champions League, Europa, Conference League. It all depends on this result.
Yeah.
And others, obviously.
And that matters hugely to the clubs, doesn't it? For planning, for prestige.
Oh, massively.
Yeah.
Finance, recruitment, bragging rights. All still very much up for grabs, so lots on the line.
So our mission today is to unpack this analysis. We want to pull out the key factors, those individual battles, the little tactical points the writer thinks are going to make the difference when it comes down to it.
Okay, let's get into it. Where this huge Forest versus Chelsea game might be won and lost, according to this analysis, starting with the European context.
So yeah, both guaranteed Europe. The source confirms that straight off. But like you said, it immediately pivots to the type of competition. Why does the writer stress that point so much?
Well, because it changes the whole picture for next season, really. Europa League versus Conference League. It's not just a name. It impacts the money they get,
Right.
Who they can attract.
Player recruitment, yeah.
Exactly. Perception of the season's success, even when their preseason starts. The source is basically saying, look, getting the best possible European spot is the #1 goal here. It's definitely not a game where they'll just be going through the motions.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's get to the really juicy stuff. The first key individual battle the source highlights. It's Anthony Elanga for Forest up against Marc Cucurella for Chelsea. The writer seems to think Elanga's maybe flown under the radar a bit this season.
I think that's fair, yeah. The analysis points to his output. 6 goals, 11 assists. 11 assists puts him third in the whole league. That's serious production.
Wow, third, okay.
And it's not just numbers. They talk about specific moments, like that incredible run from his own half to score against Man United. And interestingly, 3 recent assists came from set pieces, which is a theme we'll probably come back to.
And the big thing, the physical attribute everyone talks about, is his speed. The source mentions he was clocked at, 36.66 kilometer?
Third fastest player in the league this season. So when you think about Forrest hitting on the break,
He's a massive weapon.
absolutely. And the analysis notes he's had 12 goal attempts from fast breaks, more than anyone else playing in this match.
So who's trying to stop him? Chelsea's left back, Marc Cucurella. How does the analysis describe his style?
It calls him notoriously aggressive, someone who loves to get touch tight, really close, trying to stop wingers like Elanga getting turned and running into that space behind.
Right, trying to nullify that pace advantage before it even happens.
That's the idea, yeah. The source reckons Cucurella will be right on him, denying him room to accelerate.
But Cucurella isn't just a defender, is he? The writer talks about his attacking contributions, too.
No, definitely not. He gets forward a lot, takes up quite advanced positions, and apparently he drifts inside quite a bit, almost like an extra attacker in central areas, rather than just hugging the touchline. The source mentions a map showing his impact centrally in the final third.
Okay, so that sets up a really interesting dynamic. You've got Elanga's raw speed and threat on the counter, needing space, against Cucurella's aggressive marking, trying to shut that space down. But if Cucurella pushes forward and drifts inside,
Then he potentially leaves that exact space Elanga wants to run into if Forrest can win the ball back quickly.
yeah.
It's a proper tactical chess match down that flank. The source really positions it as a key battleground. Whoever gets the better of that duel could have a big say in how the game flows.
Fascinating stuff. Okay, moving infield. The analysis shifts to the playmakers. Cole Palmer for Chelsea, Morgan Gibbs-White for Forest. And there's an interesting point made about Palmer's recent form.
Yeah, it's quite striking, actually. The source knows that Palmer, despite being Chelsea's main man for so much of the season, hasn't actually scored a goal from open play since mid-January.
Mid-January, wow. That's a long stretch.
It is. 21 matches, apparently, with just 1 penalty goal and 2 assists in that whole time.
That's surprising. But the analysis says the manager, Maresca, still has total faith.
Absolutely. And the reason given is that his underlying creative numbers are still incredibly high. The writer basically says he creates way more than anyone else on that pitch, like double the number of big chances per 90 minutes compared to Gibbs-White.
Okay, so the creativity is still there, even if the open play goals aren't right now. Do they give specific stats?
Yeah, Palmer averages 0.67 big chances created per 90 and 2.06 chances created in open play per 90, and they remind us he carved out 6 chances against Forest last time they played. So the argument is, goal drought or not, he's still the guy making things happen for Chelsea.
Right. Now let's flip to Forest's main creator, Morgan Gibbs-White. He's got 15 direct goal involvements overall.
And he's hit a bit of form recently, 3 goal involvements in the last 2 games.
But the really eye-catching thing the analysis mentions about Gibbs-White is the impact of his contributions.
Exactly. The source calculated that his goals and assists have directly won Forest an extra 16 points this season.
16 points?
Yeah.
That's huge. That's the difference between mid-table and, well, European contention for them.
It really underlines how crucial his contributions have been, and often at vital moments. So while his raw creation numbers might be a bit lower than Palmer's 0.33 big chances per 90, 1.61 open play chances per 90.
Okay.
The analysis suggests his impact is maybe more directly linked to actually securing points on the board for Forest.
So the source sets up this contrast. Palmer's high-volume chance creation, despite the recent lack of open play goals, versus Gibbs-White's maybe less frequent but potentially game-changing point-winning involvements. How does the writer frame which might be more decisive here?
It doesn't really pick a side as such. It's more about presenting the difference. You've got Palmer's constant probing versus Gibbs-White's knack for the decisive moment. It kind of asks you, the listener, which type of influence matters more when the stakes are this high? Is it the volume or is it the killer blow?
Yeah, it's about the kind of impact, not just the quantity. Interesting. Okay, another area the analysis really focuses on is Forest's threat from set pieces. They lead the league in that area, right?
They do. Most set-piece goals in the Premier League this season, 17. The source calls it a major weapon for them.
And who are the key players involved in making that happen?
Well, delivery-wise, it mentions Elanga again, interestingly, and also Elliot Anderson. And then the main targets in the box are Chris Wood and Nikola Milenkovic.
Big physical presences.
Exactly. And they give examples from earlier games. Milenkovic nodding down a free kick for Wood to score against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Elanga crossing from Milenkovic to get a vital header against West Ham. It shows it's a tried and tested routine.
And it links into finishing ability, too. The source highlights Chris Wood specifically.
Yeah, calls him the best finisher involved in this game. Says his shot conversion rate is a really impressive 30.77%. And maybe even more tellingly, it states that 4 of the top 5 most clinical finishers likely to be on the pitch are Forest players.
4 out of 5. Okay, that's significant.
It really is. So you combine good delivery, big targets, and clinical finishers. It just screams danger for Chelsea from corners and free kicks. The analysis basically warns Chelsea, don't give away silly fouls anywhere near your box.
Because Forest have the tools to punish them. A clear area where Forest might feel they have an edge.
Definitely a key factor highlighted by the source.
Right. One last area the analysis explores. The goalkeepers. Could it all come down to them? The source points out the last game between these two saw both keepers, Sells for Forest, Sanchez for Chelsea, making a lot of saves.
Yeah, Sells made 7, Sanchez made 8. They were both busy. And the analysis highlights Matt Sells' recent form for Forest, calls it sparkling.
He's in the running for the Golden Glove too, isn't he?
He is, level with Raya on 13 clean sheets going into this final game. And the take on that previous match was that Sells made the tougher saves when Chelsea maybe should have scored more, based on their chances, their XG.
Okay, so Sells is in top form. What about Robert Sanchez at the other end? He's had some criticism this season.
He has, yeah. The analysis doesn't ignore that. It points out he's made 5 errors leading directly to goals, which is joint most in the league. That's obviously a concern.
The big concern on the final day.
For sure. But, and this is a really important counterpoint the source makes, his actual shot stopping is rated as very good.
Oh, okay. Despite the errors.
Yeah. His save percentage is apparently 72.80%, which ranks him second best among regular keepers. And that's actually slightly higher than Sells' percentage of 72.39%.
Wow. Okay. So that's a fascinating comparison then. Sells on a hot streak, chasing an award, looking solid against Sanchez, who has these excellent underlying shot-stopping stats, but this tendency to make those costly mistakes.
Precisely. And the source keeps coming back to this idea of fine margins deciding the game. In that context, you can easily see how a moment of brilliance or Well, a mistake from either keeper could be absolutely decisive.
Yeah, which Sanchez turns up, the top shot stopper or the error-prone one?
Yeah.
And can Sells maintain his amazing form? Huge questions.
Big questions that might only get answered late in the game.
Okay, so let's just quickly pull together the main threads from this analysis, the potential flashpoints for this Forest-Chelsea clash.
Right. We looked at that key wing battle, Elunga's speeding counter threat versus Cucurella's aggressive defending, but also his forward runs leaving space.
Then the playmaker duel. Palmer's sheer volume of chances created for Chelsea, even without recent open play goals, compared to Gibbs-White's knack for crucial point-winning moments for Forest.
Yep. And then Forest's major strength from set pieces leading the league, good delivery, big targets, and clinical finishers like Wood. A real area Chelsea need to be wary of.
Definitely. And finally, the keepers. Sells in brilliant form, chasing the Golden Glove versus Sanchez with his top-tier save percentage but worrying error count.
All adding up to a picture where, as the analysis suggests, the tiniest details, those fine margins, are likely going to settle who gets the better European spot.
So considering everything this analysis has laid out for us, the Elunga versus Cucurella fight, the Palmer versus Gibbs-White influence, Forest set-piece power, the keepers, what single factor, or maybe which individual performance, do you think will ultimately tip the scales and decide which of these teams grabs that more desirable European place?
Something to think about ahead of kickoff.